Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's meeting of the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure. Madam Secretary, would you please call the roll?
Assemblywoman Brown May. Assemblyman Carter.
Present.
Assemblywoman Dickman.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gallant.
Here.
Assemblyman Gurr.
Here.
Assemblywoman Kasama.
Here.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Assemblyman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Here.
Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong.
Present.
Chair Watts.
And I am here. Thank you. Please mark Assemblywoman Brown May absent excused. Members, we have two items on our agenda today, Assembly Bill 195 and Assembly Bill 203. A few quick housekeeping notes before we begin. As always, if you have any exhibits to provide, please provide those to our committee secretary at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting. If you wish to provide testimony on any of the items being heard today, please sign in at the table in the back and provide a business card if you have one. When testifying or providing any public comment, please clearly state and spell your name. We'll have one public comment period at the end of today's meeting. We'll ask anyone providing public comment to limit their remarks to 2 minutes. And anyone wishing to provide testimony or public comment via phone can find the information on our agendas, which are publicly posted on the Nevada Legislature's website. With that, we will get right into our agenda for today. We're going to take the items out of order and begin with Assembly Bill 203. Welcome, Assemblyman. I'll open the hearing on AB 203. Whenever you're ready, you can introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Chair Watts. Members of the committee, for the record, I am Gregory Hafen, representing Assembly District 36 within Clark County, Lincoln County, and Nye County. With me today, I have my colleague, Assemblyman De Silva. It's my absolute pleasure to be here today to present Assembly Bill 203 regarding specialty plates for veterans, specifically our Gold Star families and our Purple Heart veterans. Like my colleague, Assemblyman De Silva here, as you can see from the list and our amendment, there are a number of co-sponsors on both sides of the aisles in both houses. A little bit of background information. As you know, DMV currently issues a number of specialty plates. I'm sure some of you received them, had them taken away from you, and are going to receive some new ones here shortly. Among these plates, Mr. Chair, I believe you're familiar with the classic plates. For the classic vehicles, a number of us are familiar with the Vegas Golden Knights and the Raiders, especially if you live down south. But today we're here to talk about our decorated veteran plates. Honoring our veterans is critical. Many of you know the suicide rate of our veterans is pushing 19% in the state of Nevada, which is higher than the national average. One way that we honor our veterans, especially our decorated veterans, is having specialty lights and plates, which a number of our veterans take as a symbol of pride, where a number of our veterans don't like to discuss it. Those that do are very appreciative of what we offer and are very grateful, as we as a nation are grateful for their service and sacrifice and their families' sacrifices. We don't want to just honor our veterans, but also honor the family members of people who have died in the line of duty or as a result of injuries in the line of duty. These families have literally given the ultimate sacrifice, and they should be honored and loved. Again, special plates and other forms of recognition of their service is a constant reminder of their courage and selflessness that our veterans and their families have sacrificed. Currently, Mr. Chair, again, I keep harping on these classic plates, but most of you, I think, know those classic plates can be personalized, but our decorated veteran license plates cannot. And that is part one of why we're here today, is to allow for these decorated plates under Assembly Bill 203 to be able to be personalized. Part two of the bill and our proposed amendment that you should all have a copy of. There are copies in the back for members of the public, and I believe they have been posted on Nellis, would be to exempt these decorated plates from parking within any state or other political body within the state other than the United States government. The big item and why this bill was brought forward to me, a couple of my friends are Purple Heart veterans, and they also happen to also be disabled veterans. With disabled veterans and a few of the other decorated license plates, they are exempt from paying for parking at the Harry Reid Airport or the Reno International Airport. But with their Purple Heart license plates, they weren't. And they were actually caught off guard. They're like, we're disabled veterans. We don't understand. We get free parking with these plates, but not with these plates. And so to me, Assembly Bill 230 is to say, you know what, you're right. We should honor all of our decorated military the same, including their families with the gold stars and the fallen military. And so we have a list in front of you of Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Bronze Star, ex-prisoner of war, fallen military, Gold Star, Pearl Harbor, and our Purple Hearts, to try to include them in the exemption from having to pay for parking at state and local facilities. The third part of the bill is another item that has come up from my constituents, and Mr. Chair, I think you'll appreciate this. It's going to impose criminal penalties for those that try to gain these license plates to skate the law. They want to get free parking. As I'm pretty sure most of us know, parking at the airport can get expensive over the weekend or the week as we leave our vehicles there. But when it comes to providing false information for obtaining veteran plates, that's stolen valor, and that should not be acceptable. And so we need to have penalties in place to ensure that people do not try to skirt the system and use the system to obtain free parking without actually being a veteran. Lastly, I have a section 12.2 in the proposed amendment that you have in front of you, was at the request of the DMV. As many of you are aware, we are in the process of spending tens of millions of dollars to upgrade the DMV system, which will then allow them to have the ability to implement the personalized license plate along with everything else that they need to do. And so they've just asked that the implementation of the personalized plate section be put off until such time that IT is completed and the director feels confident that they can implement this and make the transition to the new system. Currently, it's projected to be July 1st, 2025, which is fiscal year 26, when that system should be up and running. But rather than putting a date certain in the bill, we've worked it out with legal to where we can have language placed in here so that when the system is, because we all know there are delays, and hopefully the DMV system's not delayed, but we do know there are unforeseen circumstances that can come up and have come up, and so we just want to give that leeway to the DMV so that we can implement this when the system is there. And Mr. Chair, with your permission, I'm now going to turn it over to my colleague, Assemblyman De Silva, to provide a little bit of insight, not only on the bill, but on our Purple Heart veterans.
Thank you. Welcome, Assemblyman De Silva. You can go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, distinguished colleagues, for allowing me to be here in front of you to advocate for this bill. And thank you, Assemblyman Hafen, for asking me to be a part of this bill presentation. I'll be very brief. I have to go present in the Education Committee, my own committee, here shortly. But I do want to say that that when it comes to our veterans, I think this bill is doing one thing that really is exemplary of what we as a state, as a country, should be about it, which is recognizing the sacrifices. I had the honor of actually serving alongside Assemblywoman Marzola as a younger brother. My first combat mission in Iraq was with Sergeant Kane Marzola outside of the wire. And I remember that mission very distinctly. My first time seeing blown up vehicles along a pathway, a convoy pathway that we were tracking, was on that mission. My first time hearing of casualties that we were taking was on that mission. And my time in Iraq is a very formative time period in my own development. It really instilled in me a commitment to service, and it's why, in the end, I'm here, because of this commitment really to serve not just my community, my state, my country, but my fellow Americans. So this bill, though small in nature, we think, just recognizing veterans with a license plate is very meaningful to the veteran community. We're talking about now veterans who have received some very distinguished medals: the Bronze Star, Silver Star, the Purple Heart. Those of you who are not familiar with the Purple Heart, you get a Purple Heart by being injured in combat. You had to have either been shot, blown up, stabbed, taken actual physical bodily wounds from the enemy. And I myself took a bullet through my arm in Fallujah, Iraq. I have not talked too much about it, amongst my colleagues even, but I'm disabled. I cannot use my my left hand. I can't supinate, I think is the word. Can't really use my my fingers. I'm a combat disabled person at the young age of 22. So these small recognitions are very meaningful to us as veterans and as a veteran community. And I think it's also important to recognize the fact that this bill will also be extended to family members. We'll be recognizing the actual sacrifices of family members who, I'll say this, who serve alongside us. It's our parents, our guardians who are constantly worried as to what's happening to us while we're overseas. I remember my own mom called my unit, and I got yelled at. I got yelled at by my staff sergeant. I'll be real with you, because I hadn't called my mom in 2 weeks. It's important that and that just goes to show that you have to, they're worried about us. And that's not even talking about the children of vets or active duty as they're deployed. And then those of us who were wounded, the arduous process of recuperation. I myself served, I was going through a rehab at a hospital in San Diego, Balboa Navy Hospital, for 14 months. They reconstructed my arm. It was very painful. And my family members took time off work to be there with me as I was going through this rehabilitation process. So when it comes to the bottom line of what I want to really express to you all here today is that it's important to recognize our veterans. It's important to recognize the sacrifices of our family members. And I do wholeheartedly want to support this bill as a Purple Heart recipient myself. And I want to thank my colleague here, Assemblyman Hafen, for bringing this bill forward to you all today for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblyman, and thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
We are all very thankful. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this bill forward.
Mr. Chair, we are here for any questions the committee or yourself may have.
Thank you very much to both of you for your presentation. With that, we'll open it up to questions from the members of the committee. Assemblyman Gurr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Assemblyman Hafen, you mentioned stolen valor. How are we going to be able to protect against that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, to the Assemblyman.
You can go directly to the member moving forward.
Thank you. So currently, my understanding is when there's stolen valor, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the federal government, the FBI, actually does an investigation, and they're the ones that are in charge of prosecuting it. What we're trying to do in this is currently, under statute, is they sign a document at the DMV claiming to be a veteran or a Purple Heart veteran or a family member, but there's no penalties for if they fraudulently do that. So in this bill throughout, in the various sections, you'll see that there are actually penalties that are put into place of fines up to $1,000 in the event that somebody does do that. And I lightheartedly said that we've had other issues with other plates where people are using it to skate the system, and that's actually one of the reasons that I'm including this is because we don't want the stolen valor to be something where everybody goes out and gets a plate because they just want to get free parking. We don't want that to happen because we want to honor our veterans, or especially our distinguished veterans, with this as a way of saying thank you. And so I hope that addresses your concerns, and if my colleague has anything else to add.
Ruben De Silva for the record. And Assemblyman, one thing that's important here is that when it comes to identifying yourself as a veteran, I mean, one of the basic documents you can use is a DD-214. And the way that the DMV processes that is they just take the piece of paper and then they can give you a plate. It'll say there what kind of awards you've received. So I think it's pretty easy to actually fraudulently get one of these license plates if that's the case. So I think this is why you need to have some of these safeguards in place. So the stolen valor is a very important issue in the veterans community. And my particular concern here is the fact that these are state funds that we're dealing with. You know, when we talk about airport parking fees, city parking fees, these are monies that go towards public service and public utilization. So that's why I think it's important to actually have some kind of a safeguard in place and to address the issue of fraudulently claiming to be a veteran, especially when it comes to the utilization of public funds. Thank you. Thank you for your question, Assemblyman.
Follow-up?
And if I could, to add to that, the DMV does require the DD-214 when you go in to try to get the plates. And so this is just an additional safeguard in addition to that to make sure that people aren't fraudulently obtaining these.
I certainly appreciate the answers. That's probably one of the most disgusting things that could go is people stealing the valor, and it really upsets me, so I appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Chair. Not a question. I just, first of all, wanted to thank Assemblyman De Silva for your service. I had no idea what you've been through. But thank you both for bringing forth this bill, and it's my honor to sign on to it because I think it's so important that we pay special tribute to people who have sacrificed so much. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Additional questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I do have one question. Could you just repeat for us, for the members of the committee, those that currently qualify for the exemption from parking, and then who would be covered under this bill? And related to that, I know you've previously done some work around what percentage of plates, and perhaps that is a question best left to the DMV, but if you happen to have a sense of what percentage of vehicle plates would be covered, I think that we'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I do have some of those numbers here. Let me just get to it. So when you look at the different individual plates, and I'll start with the Pearl Harbor plates. In 2021, it amounted to 0.12% of the total vehicles that are on the road. I believe that number has sadly coming down in the last 2 years. In regards to the fallen military in 2021, there was a total of 24 plates. Trying to see if I had any of the other ones, but I'm sure if I can't find them right now, Mr. Chair, I will provide you further data. But that gives you a small sample of the limited number of plates that we're referring to. I believe that the Purple Heart is probably the larger of the decorated plates, and we're still not talking about very many in that group. In regards to the various plates, I can tell you off the top of my head, the various disabled veteran plates currently get free parking. Under certain circumstances, I believe the XPOW, under certain circumstances, the Purple Heart, and there's another one that currently already receive the free parking at the various locations. And then I'll read you the list of the ones that we are trying to expand this into. Obviously, first and foremost is the the Purple Heart, is expanding it to all the Purple Heart plates, not just the limited ones that we currently are. And it would include the Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Bronze Star, all of the ex-POWs, again, the 24 fallen military, the Gold Stars, and then the roughly 1,000 of the Pearl Harbor survivor license plates.
Thank you very much for that. And we'll follow up, and I'm sure we can get some additional details on those statistics from the DMV. But it's very helpful, especially with all the different references in statute, to just have that really clear on the record. And I just want to express my appreciation for your efforts to ensure that we aren't creating any more loopholes when it comes to specialty license plates. Seeing no other questions, thank you again both very much for your presentation. We'll move on to testimony in support of AB 203. Anyone wishing to provide support here in Carson City, come on forward. Also, if anyone is in Las Vegas and wishes to provide testimony in support, please come forward. All right. Welcome. Thank you very much. Go ahead whenever you're ready. Please state and spell your name for the record before you begin.
Pilbit, last name L-E-P-E-I-L-B-E-T, no more. And I am the state chairman for the United Veterans Legislative Council, representing the nearly 279,000 veterans in our state. And when you include their immediate families, that's 500,000 Nevadans in our population, about 16% of our population. I'm also the state commander for the Military Order of the Purple Heart. Those are all of us that didn't duck enough. And like the assemblyman said, yeah, I have holes in me as well. I was temporarily paralyzed from the waist down. And I say temporary, they got the shrapnel on my spine, but that's another story for the future. The big thing about this bill for us is the Gold Star families. All of our vets are proud to carry the plates that they have on their vehicles now. The Gold Star families are somebody we're missing. They paid the ultimate price. Their children, their parents, their spouses, they died for our country. At a minimum, they should be getting free parking everywhere and helped everywhere we can. I can't imagine the suffering and pain for them. So the United Veterans Legislative Council and the Military Order of the Purple Heart totally support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts and committee members. I'm Director Beth Schmidt, B-E-T-H-S-C-H-M-I-D-T, from the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We support AB 203. Assemblyman De Silva spoke about his commitment to service. Well, service is the underlying tenet of so many of the men and women who work for the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department and who have also served our country, both some of them as active military members and some today as reserve officers. We thank the Assemblyman for bringing this bill and we support it.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts, members of the committee. My name is Doug Goodman, D-O-U-G-G-O-O-D-M-A-N. I wasn't planning on testifying with this bill, but I'm doing so as a retired Army. Whenever I see somebody says proud military mom, dad, parent, I always go up to them and say thank you. We get thanked for our service, but military families serve just as well. A military member could not do what they do without the support of their family. So the fact that this bill extends these privileges to the family is something so well deserved, and hopefully you will support it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Goodman. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony here in Carson City in support? Seeing none in Las Vegas. Broadcast Production Services, can we see if we have anyone wishing to provide testimony in support of AB 203 by phone?
Chair, the line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to testimony in opposition of AB 203. Anyone wishing to provide testimony in opposition here in Carson City or Las Vegas? Please come forward. Seeing none at this time, BPS, can we see if we've had anyone join us by phone?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
All right, thank you. And last, we'll move to testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 203. Welcome, Mr. Sever, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We are neutral on AB 203 and did provide a fiscal note with impact on the original bill, which has not yet appeared on Nellis. We did meet with the bill sponsor and let him know and appreciated him reaching out to us. And we greatly appreciate him working with us on the implementation of this bill to be after the department finishes its transformation and move most of our services online. The only way we're going to be able to get through our transformation is to save projects for our new IT system and not to have to add them both to the new and the old systems. So we do agree with the proposed amended language and think we'll be able to revise our fiscal note to a much lesser impact now. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Sever. I'm not going to put you on the spot right now, but if you could follow up with some information to the committee members on the scope of the plates that are under consideration, that would be really helpful. And again, if you happen to know off the top of your head, that's fine. Otherwise, you could follow up. But there was a question around after this bill passes, if it passes, are there any other remaining specialty plates that cannot be personalized?
Sean Sever from the DMV, and I will follow up with you on that. There are 56,002 military plates currently in Nevada, and I can also get you a breakdown of that as well.
Thank you very much. We'd appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 203? Seeing no one come forward in person, BPS, can we see if anyone's joined us by phone?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Assemblyman Hafen, would you like to give any closing remarks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I was able to pull up the data from January of 2021 at least. In addition to the 24 fallen military, there are 55 Purple Heart motorcycles, 180 so Gold Star families, and the larger amount of the license plates will be the Purple Heart veterans, which at that time was 1,200. And again, when you total up all of the different plates that are included in this, it's roughly 1,500 license plates are 0.15% of the total number of license plates in the state in 2021. I hope that satisfies it. If you'd like further information, I'm sure the DMV would be happy to give you more current information. Again, I just want to say thank you to all of you for allowing me to be here today. It's an absolute honor to present Assembly Bill 203, especially with my Purple Heart colleague sitting next to me. So I look forward to continuing to honor our servicemen, our veterans that have given so much to this nation. I just thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, I will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 203 and open the hearing on Assembly Bill 195, which revises provisions governing certain fees for driver's licenses. Welcome to the committee, Assemblywoman Hardy. Whenever you're ready, you can introduce yourself for the record and begin.
Thank you, Chair Watts and members of the Growth and Infrastructure Committee. For the record, I am Assemblywoman Melissa Hardy. I represent Assembly District 22 in Clark County. I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity to present this important bill today, AB 195, which revises provisions governing certain fees for driver's licenses. Just a little bit of an introduction and a personal connection to this bill. I became interested in the topic of recidivism in 2015 when my youngest daughter took her first criminal justice course at UNLV and did a report on the topic. Later, as I ran for office and began to serve my community, I started to look into what practical measures can be taken to assist those coming out of prison so that they have the tools they need to reenter their communities, and lessen the likelihood of them reoffending and being incarcerated again. Recidivism is a complex issue, but there are practical, common sense measures that can be taken to help prevent and reduce it. One of these measures is providing formerly incarcerated individuals with the ability to obtain a driver's license. Identification is essential for accessing services, employment, and housing, and without it, many individuals struggle to reintegrate into society. Providing them with a form of ID can help them overcome these barriers and facilitate their reentry. Additionally, obtaining a driver's license can be a critical step in helping individuals find and maintain employment. Transportation is often a significant challenge for people who have been incarcerated, and a driver's license can provide them with greater mobility, independence, and access to the job market. Overall, providing formerly incarcerated individuals with the ability to obtain a driver's license is a practical measure that can make a significant impact on reducing recidivism and supporting successful reentry into society. Under current Nevada statute, there is a possible waiver of fees to furnish duplicate licenses and the cost of producing a photograph to a person who was released from prison, a county, city, or town jail, or a detention facility within the 90 days immediately preceding the person's application for a license. Under certain circumstances, the person may have to reimburse the DMV for certain portions of the fee. However, in Nevada, there are still many individuals released with only their prison IDs, which is not accepted as a valid form of identification for transactions such as rental applications, job applications, bank accounts, and other essential steps to reintegrate into society. Therefore, I introduced AB 195, which is based on similar legislation passed in Delaware. So if we go to the bill, Section 3 of AB 195 is adding 3 transactions that would require the DMV to waive the fees for 1, furnishing an original or renewal driver's license, 2, reinstating a driver's license, and 3, providing a photograph for a driver's license, including any reimbursement, if a person submits documentation verifying the person was released from prison within the year immediately preceding the person's applications for a driver's license. Section 1 of AB 195 requires the DMV to waive the $25 for the driver's license examination, not more than one time, for a person who submits documentation verifying they were released from prison within the immediately preceding year. And then lastly, Section 2 of the bill provides an additional exception to the penalty for any person whose license expires during a period of incarceration, if the person submits documentation verifying they were released from prison within the immediately preceding year, and the person completes a renewal application within 1 year after his or her release. Again, I am a proponent of practical, common sense measures we as lawmakers can enact to assist individuals with reentry and success. That concludes the presentation of the bill, so I'm open to questions, and I just want to note the DMV is here, and they may, if I can't answer the technical aspects of that portion of the bill, they might can address those later, and I will answer the rest to best of my ability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation of the bill, Assemblywoman. With that, we'll open it up to members of the committee for questions. We'll start with Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, then we'll go to Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Assemblywoman Hardy, for this wonderful bill. So I know that we've been trying to implement the Real ID process, and I'm just trying to figure out how this will work with obtaining a real ID. There are some other specific requirements. Will this be, if the person can't meet the requirements of a real ID, will they still be allowed to get just a regular driver's license? Are those still available?
Melissa Hardy, for the record, thank you for the question. So that might be a good question for the DMV if they are still issuing driver's license and IDs other than the real ID, and how long that would continue. Because as you mentioned, when you get the real ID, you have to provide certain documentation for that. So I would definitely look into that because, again, we want these individuals to be able to have a driver's license when they come out, a valid form of ID. And if they aren't initially able to get the real ID, what would that look like? And so I appreciate that question. Thank you.
Thank you. And well, I assume Mr. Sever will be taking notes back there. We'll follow up with him as well. Assemblywoman Dickman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Assemblywoman Hardy, for bringing this bill, because we know it's so important to help people not slide back. But I just had a quick question. In Section 2, Sub 4, the active duty military, when they come back, they have 30 days. So how did you arrive at 1 year? Just curious.
Melissa Hardy, for the record. Thank you for the question, Assemblywoman. Like I said, this was based off similar legislation passed in Delaware. And I just felt, just to kind of go off those parameters and to give them time, basically, I felt like a year was fair. Maybe I'm open to if we need to shorten that time or whatever, but just wanted to be able to give people ample time to do this. And I think, a year is fair.
Okay. I just feel like if they're not kind of down a path sooner than a year, the recidivism might be happening, but anyway, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Chairman Watts.
Thank you very much. And it's always helpful to look at what else is in statute, although I think there would be some other people that might want to consider expanding the time frame for some of these other populations as well. Assemblyman Miller.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill. I appreciate common sense solutions that make things better for folks who need a second chance in life, right? So my quick question, though, is I know we're talking specifically about driver's licenses, but what about folks who maybe did not have a driver's license? Would they be able to also just get a basic state-issued identification card? Thank you.
Melissa Hardy, for the record. Thank you for that question. It's one that I've had talked with many groups and individuals about because, yes, not everybody drives. Everybody is interested in driving. And so, how can we help those individuals? And I am certainly open to that. And again, working with the DMV, is that something that would it delay what this bill's in trying to do, or is it something we can, incorporate rolling this out? Because, I certainly would want those people that just need an ID to be able to get that as well. So I'm definitely open to discussing that. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, I do have a couple of quick questions. So, and I appreciate that you mentioned some of the existing statutory language in Section 3 of the bill that also references folks who have been in county, city, town jail or detention facilities. I see that most of the language that is proposed for inclusion in this bill specifically references the Department of Corrections. And I know that sometimes those stays in those local jail facilities are short, but sometimes there can be a decent length term of incarceration that could lead to folks kind of falling into similar circumstances. So I was just wondering if you've contemplated that and if you would envision kind of applying that more broadly than folks just released from NDOC custody.
Thank you, Chair Watts, for the question. Melissa Hardy, for the record. Yes, this is also another topic that I've been having conversations addressing that. I specifically spoke with Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department, and again, they could address this more in detail. Your exact point, some of those people stay longer in some of these facilities. Would it be worthwhile to expand that? And basically, the feeling was the majority of those people are there at such a short time that it wouldn't be beneficial to expand what this bill is trying to do. But again, they can give you more information as to who they talk to in the local facilities regarding that. But yeah, it's a great option, and I have considered that as well.
Thank you. All right. Seeing no other questions, thank you very much again for the presentation. With that, we'll move on to testimony on Assembly Bill 195. We'll begin with testimony in support here in Carson City. Anyone wishing to provide testimony in support down in Las Vegas, please come forward. As a reminder, please state and spell your name before you begin, and we'll begin with you. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts and committee members. My name is Katie Brandon, Katie Brandon, and I'm the Public Health Intern at the Fines and Fees Justice Center and a Master of Public Health student at UNR. We are in support of Assembly Bill 195, and we'd like to thank Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing this bill forward. In Nevada, where public transportation options are limited, having a driver's license is key to accessing transportation. Here in Nevada, people are released from prison with a minimum of $25. We hope that people have more than that, but inmate savings are consistently depleted by paying thousands of dollars for medical care during their stay in prison. As a result, many people are released with that minimum, only $25 to try to access housing, food, medical care, and of course, transportation. The fee to get a driver's license, $41, is nearly twice that. Exempting recently released people from these fees would remove a significant barrier to accessing a driver's license. Having a driver's license increases access to transportation, which is key to preventing recidivism. We recently conducted a survey of nearly 400 currently incarcerated individuals in Nevada, and over 1/3 of them cited lack of transportation as a reason for their incarceration. By helping people get driver's licenses, we can lower their risk of reoffending and returning to prison. Access to transportation is also a social determinant of health. Increasing access to driver's licenses increases a person's options for housing, work, childcare, and food, which all promote health. Extensive research has shown that people who are incarcerated are more likely to have high blood pressure, asthma, cancer, arthritis, tuberculosis, hepatitis C, HIV, and other chronic health issues. All of these conditions require extensive, regular, in-person medical care, which is so much easier to access when you are able to drive when you're released from prison. We urge your support on this bill to increase access to transportation, reduce recidivism, and promote health among previously incarcerated individuals. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Adrian Hunt, ADRIANHUNT. I'm a police detective representing the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. Good afternoon, Chair Watts and committee members. We support Bill AB 195 to help the Nevada Department of Corrections facilitate and assist released inmates to reenter society. A valid driver's license is a necessity to secure a job, housing, and bank account, to name a few. Our goal should be to position released inmates for success upon release, in which a valid driver's license would help that tremendously. Although this bill is focused on the Nevada Department of Corrections, Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department has programs and resources similar at Clark County Detention Center to assist released inmates, which has helped with success to reintegrate into society. Me personally, this bill affects me. I remember vividly as an adolescent, my father who was incarcerated, many hardships trying to get back into society to be productive. We appreciate Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing this bill forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. John Piro, JOHNPIRO, from the Clark County Public Defender's Office. One of our goals when we do this job is to hopefully never see another person get arrested again. And this is a very easy step to make sure that somebody gets back on their feet once they've served their time. We are super grateful for Assemblywoman Hardy bringing this bill forward. We urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Erica Roth on behalf of the Washoe County Public Defender's Office. I echo the sentiments of my colleague, Mr. Piro. $41 may seem like nothing, but that can literally be life or death for one of our clients when we're talking about getting back on their feet. So we thank the Assemblywoman for bringing this forward and are in full support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aisha Goins, AESHAGOINS, on behalf of the NAACP of Las Vegas. Thank you, Chair and Committee. I want to thank Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing this bill. This is kind of personal for me. I have a brother who was incarcerated, and one of the things that I remember my father dropping everything to do was ensuring that my brother had ID so that he wouldn't have to be afraid of being stopped or not having proper identification. I don't drive, but I can understand the importance of driving and having the driver's license. And for my brother, that was the number one thing my dad did not want him to be on the streets without. And so this just eliminates the process of that concern for formerly incarcerated persons, and also allows them an opportunity of getting their dignity back. And I think that that's one of the things that we forget is our formerly incarcerated sisters and brothers are people, and allowing them the opportunity to have identification or to have a driver's license promotes that and allows them to re-entry back into society. Thank you. I urge you to support this bill, and I urge you to vote for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you. My name is Jody Hocking, JODIHOCKING. I am the founder and executive director of Return Strong. We're an organization comprised of families of the incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people. I'm going to actually kind of step out of that role a little bit today and give you more of a personal scenario. Assemblywoman Dickman, I think that this might actually help answer your question about why a 1 year. As a community, I think it's important to be setting up people for success and removing barriers that cause difficulties in reentry. One of the things is the financial burden on families. When my husband came home in 2018, he had been incarcerated for 19 years, and we had to purchase everything that he potentially needed: shoes, clothes, like he needed a driver's license, and it was all on my income, and I was already raising kids and grandkids and everything else. So removing that barrier is huge for families and the person. What also happened was that it took almost 6 months for him to be able to get his driver's license because he had been incarcerated for so long that he couldn't identify. He was incarcerated under an alias. And so his information when he came out, we had to start right from a birth certificate, and he couldn't be found. That led to like a depression, which honestly, he's back incarcerated now, and I feel like had we really set him up for success, we may be in a very different situation. So we're in full support of this Assembly Bill 195, and we really thank Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing it here.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Ms. Hocking. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders, and I'm the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of Assembly Bill 195. We want to echo the sentiments of everyone who testified before us. Easing the ability to get a driver's license will help people better able to reintegrate into society, attend necessary appointments, access housing, get a job, and much more. We urge your support of this bill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Annette Magnus, and I'm the Executive Director of Battleborn Progress. We are here today in full support of Assembly Bill 195. Individuals who are re-entering society should not have to pay fines and fees as they work to establish their lives after incarceration. This bill makes our system more equitable because it will help individuals who are already struggling with basic necessities. An added expense tied to getting your driver's license back, or any kind of ID for that matter, is not necessary and honestly is prohibitive. Many people cannot afford the fees as they are re-entering society. We should support these individuals as they are members of our community. That is why we're here today to urge your support for AB 195. Additionally, we want to extend a sincere thank you to Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing this important bill forward. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Emily Prasad Zamora, PERSAUD-ZAMORA, on behalf of Silver State Voices that leads the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition. And we're here in strong support of AB 195. 2 sessions ago, the legislature took an important step by reinstating the voting rights of formerly incarcerated Nevadans. And it's our belief that AB 195 builds on this progress, as it has the potential to make a significant difference in the lives of formerly incarcerated community members. When people are released from prison, many are denied a wide range of resources because they lack an ID or updated driver's license. Having a driver's license ensures that they have access to essential resources such as housing, a better job, bank accounts, and the ability to register to vote and cast their ballot. Formerly incarcerated Nevadans, however, still face obstacles and limitations that not only prevent their full integration into our communities, but also perpetuate their disenfranchisement. And a lack of a driver's license can lead to further restrictions and hardships. We urge your support for AB 195. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hello, committee and chair. Thank you so much. For the record, my name is Amy Koo, AMYKOO, and I am the acting deputy director with One API Nevada. We're a nonprofit here in Nevada that advocates for the growing Asian, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. It's already hard enough for those of us who are returning from incarceration to reintegrate into society, and this is an easy way for us to make it a little bit easier for those who've already served their time. We urge your support for this bill, and thank you so much to Assemblywoman Hardy for bringing this. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your testimony.
Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Sondra Cosgrove. It's SONDRA-COSGROVE. I'm the Executive Director of Vote Nevada. Today, I am speaking in full support of AB 195, and I thank the Assemblywoman for bringing this bill. This bill addresses what the Corrections Director, James Arenda, says is the #1 reason that people recidivate. They can't integrate back into society. And everything, as the Assemblywoman said, that you do on a day-to-day basis, you're going to be asked for an ID. And so when you're continually being told that you don't exist because you don't have an ID, as was also said, that can cause people to have mental health problems. I'm also here testifying as David's mom, because my son has mental health problems. And my son would have been in jail if he didn't have a mom that could get him an ID and could make sure that he got services. The people that we see that are homeless, the people that we see are drug addicted, they don't have that mom. And so it's important that if somebody doesn't have someone else that can pay the $41, that can drive them down to get the test and take care of them, that somebody will help them to make sure they don't fall through the cracks. So I, as Executive Director of Vote Nevada, I thank the Assemblywoman and support this bill. But more importantly, I support it because I'm David's mom.
Thank you so much.
Chair Watts, members of the committee, Doug Goodman, DOUGGOODMAN. I'm founder, executive director of Nevadans for Election Reform. Assemblywoman Hardy and all those testifying in favor have brought forward all the arguments on how this bill would help prevent recidivism. During the 2019 session, the legislature passed a bill and it was signed into law restoring the voting rights of those released from prison. Well, they can't vote and register to vote unless they have an ID. So this makes a big common sense solution to follow on with restoring those rights, actually making it easier for them to actually exercise their right to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else here in Carson City, we'll go down to Las Vegas.
Hello. You can hear me, I hope?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Greetings, Chair and committee members. My name is Jagada Chambers. I'm currently the Rights Restoration Coordinator at Silver State Voices. I'm here testifying in complete support of AB 195 and appreciate Assemblywoman Melissa Hardy for bringing the legislation. Any fee waiver designed to relieve our formerly incarcerated brothers and sisters of one less burden in reacclimating back into society is an easy support for me. This legislation is something that will undoubtedly have a positive impact on a group of individuals whose struggles are monumental upon re-entering society, struggles that I have firsthand experience conquering. In my professional space as a rights restoration coordinator, I've spent hundreds of hours at the state parole and probation offices. A lot of our Nevada Department of Corrections folks come home from prison directly to those offices. I know that there are hindrances as of not having their driver's license. That's commonplace. From the transportation hurdles to DMV scheduling complications, and most importantly, the financial bondage the majority reenter society with. AB 195 has the potential to help your incarcerated constituents believe in community support for their return. I think that is what reigns most vaulted to me. This is a monumental step in helping our brothers and sisters know this body specifically believes in their coming back home. So whether or not folks comprehend or not, this legislation is a quality step towards ending the revolving door of incarceration. The empathy it takes to provide assistance to those coming home from incarceration can and will go a long way. It is my hope that this Committee on Growth and Infrastructure supports this legislation and in turn support the mothers and fathers, daughters and sons leaving the Department of Corrections on their way home. Thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Seeing no one else at this time wishing to provide comment in person, BPS, can we see if anyone wishes to provide testimony in support of Assembly Bill 195 by phone?
Callers, if you would like to testify in support on Assembly Bill 195, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 195, please press *9 now. One moment, Chair. Caller with the last three digits, 513, you are unmuted on our end. Can you unmute? Chair, would you like me to move on to the next caller until that caller is able to connect?
Yes, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 856, you are unmuted and may begin.
Hello, members of the committee. My name is Sarah Walkley. It's Wochle. I'm a social worker, and I previously worked on legal defense teams with amazing people who were unfortunately caught up in systems of punishment using a model known as holistic defense. I also love someone who is currently incarcerated and serving a 20-year sentence. We know that many formerly incarcerated people say themselves that not having a driver's license or ID is one of their biggest problems with reentry. And as you've heard today, valid ID is pivotal in order to acquire many other elements of reentry that have proven successful at reducing recidivism. It's one thing to have the option in Nevada to have one's license reinstated, but the reality is when there are fees associated with doing so, it stops being an option if one needs financial means to access it. When we keep these fees in place, we limit people from being able to obtain a necessary document to access other necessary things like employment, opening a bank account, renting an apartment, buying a car, even responsibilities associated with being a parent. Depending on how long someone was locked up for, the spectrum of anxiety associated with reentry can be tremendous. Structural barriers to reentry worsen this. I had a friend who was locked up in Lewisburg Penitentiary who talked a lot about what we might view as smaller anxieties of release. He talks about his first times post-release at checkout counters, unsure the proper way to check out because of new technologies, being unsure about how to interact with the person at the checkout counter as he was suddenly unsure about small talk and the regular steps for the checkout process, feeling the panic of uncertainty rise within him. There are so many unseen battles like this one that recently incarcerated people face in getting their lives back. The panic of uncertainty shows up at multiple points, and these are often symptoms of structural barriers. Spending money on bus fare to go to the DMV, hoping to obtain your necessary ID, only to find that you're expected to pay money that you need for food and public transit, is an instant where this reentry panic rises up for many. For the person who finally received a job offer despite navigating discrimination from countless potential employers, they panic, wondering how they will be able to fill out their paperwork, still be hired without their ID, and then not have a license to drive to get to their job. Currently, we are setting people up to fail. People navigating the uncertainties of reentry need our support. Please support AB 195. It offers one piece of structural stability for recently released people. Thank you.
Thank you. BPS, next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 723, you are unmuted and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Brianna Escamilla, BriannaEscamilla for the record, and I'm calling in on behalf of Planned Parenthood Votes Nevada in support of AB 195. For the sake of time, I will just say that we echo the sentiments of our partners who have already testified and thank Assemblywoman Hardy for this bill. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. BPS, next caller, please.
Caller with the last three digits, 135, you are unmuted and may begin.
Good afternoon, Chair Watts and committee members. My name is Carrie Durmick, that's Kerrydurmick, and I'm the Nevada State Director at All Voting is Local Action, an organization that exists to expose and dismantle threats to voter freedom in order to make voting safe, fair, and accessible, to build a democracy for us all. All Voting is Local Action is also a member of the Let Nevadans Vote Coalition, a coalition of pro-voter organizations. Assembly Bill 195 will enable previously incarcerated individuals to access a Nevada driver's license without having to worry about financial constraints for at least a year. It will help individuals to obtain the necessary identification documentation that is required to apply for housing, fill out employment, verification documents, fulfill parental duties such as registering their child for school, fly, and more. Additionally, they will be able to register to vote online and cast their ballots if they are first-time Nevada voters. Every Nevadan voter should be able to make their voice heard without barriers, and we ask the committee for their support of AB 195. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you very much. BPS, next caller, please.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Lilith Barron, Lilith Baran, and I'm the policy manager for the ACLU of Nevada. We'd like to echo the sentiments of everyone before us, citing that this would reduce significant barriers that are seen constantly when people are being released, and as well as when we're interfacing with unhoused individuals. According to the Prison Policy Initiative, 27% of formerly incarcerated individuals are unemployed, which is 5 times higher than the unemployment rate. Having an ID or driver's license is essential to being able to obtain gainful employment. And also, according to Vera Institute, 40% of people who are incarcerated have family members who are entirely dependent on them for transportation. So we really urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. BPS, next caller, please.
Callers, if you've recently joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 195, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify in support at this time. Oh, Chair, there is a caller that just entered the queue. One moment.
Thank you.
Caller with the last 3 digits, 513, can you press star 6 to unmute your phone? You are unmuted on our end.
Good afternoon, Chair and committee members. My name is Jessica Munger, M-U-N-G-E-R. I'm the Program Manager of Silver State Equality, a statewide LGBTQ+ civil rights organization. We are in support of AB 195 as it decreases barriers that exist for formerly incarcerated people to obtain their driver's licenses and register to vote. AB 195 will help people better integrate back into society, engage in the democratic process, and have an ID to drive or use otherwise to become gainfully employed and find housing. Again, Silver State Equality thanks Assemblywoman Hardy and the committee.
Thank you very much. BPS, do we have any additional callers in support?
Chair, there are no other callers to testify at this time.
Thank you. Seeing no one else wishing to provide testimony in support, we'll move on to testimony in opposition of Assembly Bill 195. Seeing no one in Carson City or Las Vegas at this time, BPS, do we have anyone wishing to provide opposition testimony by phone?
Chair, there are no callers at this time.
Thank you. And finally, we'll move on to testimony in the neutral position on Assembly Bill 195. Welcome back, Mr. Sever.
Thank you, Chair, committee members. Sean Sever from the Nevada DMV. We are neutral on AB 195 and did provide a fiscal note with impact on the original bill, which is on Nellis. We did meet with the bill sponsor and appreciated that to let her know, and also appreciate her reaching out to us. The proposed changes in the language would result in a loss to the DMV for fee revenue for license issuance, renewals, and reinstatements, as well as card production fees that cover the costs of card creation. It's simply a fiscal impact to the DMV and does not involve computer programming, fortunately. Thanks, and I can answer those DMV questions if you'd like.
Thank you. That would be great. And one more that I have is just a question around the existing statute on photography vendors. So they have the ability, they may waive fees, and I was wondering what happens in practice. Do those vendors waive the fees in those circumstances, or do they not?
Sean Sever from the DMV, and I'll have to get back to you on that one, Chair. And to answer the two questions, first of all, the Real ID offenders can, as long as they have the required documents, they can get a Real ID, and those documents are listed on getrealnevada.com. The Real ID deadline is now May 7th, 2025. And then the second question, we are open to adding IDs to this bill as well, but just keep in mind that could increase the fiscal impact to the DMV.
All right, thank you very much, and I will just remind the committee that any fiscal matters will be resolved in the Ways and Means Committee, so this is just a consideration of the policy aspect. We do have a question from Assemblywoman Peters.
Thank you, Chair. With regard to the Real ID and the documentation you need to bring in, it can be a significant burden. I got turned flat ass around for not having everything I needed because I've changed my name and had babies, and like every life choice I've made has made it harder for me. However, it is my understanding that if you were born in Washoe County or married in Washoe County, that the DMV here at least has a partnership that can look at those records. Can you confirm that and let us know what do you actually have to physically bring in if you were married and or born in this county?
Sean Sever from the DMV. I'll have to get back to you on that one question. However, getrealnevada.com is a really good webpage where you can type in all of your information. It asks you questions. It tells you which documents you need according to your stature.
Thank you. So if you can provide that follow-up information, we'd appreciate it.
You bet.
All right. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony in neutral on Assembly Bill 195? Seeing none, Assemblywoman, would you like to make any closing remarks?
Thank you, Chair Watts and committee again for hearing this bill, and I want to just thank everyone that came out in support and shared their personal stories of how this could have helped their loved ones and family members, and how going forward this can help individuals that are in this situation. In closing, I just would like to thank you again for this opportunity. In my conversations with those involved in the criminal justice reform community, it became evident that getting a driver's license, a fairly simple, if inconvenient errand for most of us, was made exceptionally difficult for those being released from prison. Just when these folks are looking for a hand up, they run into a major obstacle. I think the least we can do is offer to give them that hand to be successful, to reenter their communities, and further their progression. And I liked one comment one of the callers mentioned. It said, this gives them a piece of stability to help them rebuild their lives and the lives of their families. So I thank you for your time, and we will get you any additional information you ask for, and I hope that you will support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you very much. With that, I'll close the hearing on Assembly Bill 195. Members, that brings us to the last item on our agenda today, which is public comment. As a reminder, those wishing to provide public comment by phone can find the information on our agenda. We ask anyone wishing to provide public comment to limit their remarks to 2 minutes and ask folks to please clearly state and spell their name before they begin. With that, do we have anyone wishing to provide public comment here in Carson City or in Las Vegas? Seeing none at this time, Broadcast Production Services, do we have anyone wishing to provide public comment by phone?
Callers, if you would like to testify in neutral or if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Callers, if you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 now. Chair, the line is open and working. There are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
All right. Thank you very much for all your assistance, BPS members. Our next meeting will be on Thursday, March 9th at 1:30 p.m. Thank you all for your time. We're adjourned.